recording then. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today is February 6th, 2026, and we are here for the Legislative Committee of the Colorado Forest Health Council. I'm really glad to see you all. I'm Chair Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shad McNally, and we have our fantastic group here. I'm going to just go through who is here. And we have Morgan Timber, we have Pat Dorsey, and we have Christina Burry, Allison Lurch, and myself, and Rob Addington. Rob, I'm trying to remember if you're here to listen, or are you on the council? Remind me.
I'm just here to listen. Paige Lewis.
I'm so glad you're here to listen. So you're welcome. So we have 5. I believe that's enough for quorum. If someone can give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know you can't hear either. Okay. So we have quorum. So we're going to move on to the agenda and get through some items. And thank you all for being here. So first, let's just go back and look at the minutes from last meeting. And I appreciate, again, everyone's attendance. You have been all just amazing for all this work for many, many years. And I appreciate that. So has anyone had any concerns about the additions to the meeting minutes from the 23rd? Well, if not, I would, now we also have, Courtney's there. Okay. So I would take a motion to approve. Pat, yes.
Yeah, I did have a correction I submitted to Courtney. I haven't had a chance to look and see if that correction had been made.
I'm sure she did, but she did in the minutes. So she's nodding that she did. So, all right. So with that, that addition had been changed for you, Pat. So I will welcome a motion to approve the minutes as presented today after the changes. Mr. Morgan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. Any further discussion? Great. We are approved the minutes. We're going to move on to the agenda and okay. So the next item is just kind of debriefing about the breakfast real quick and any feedback, and I'll kick that off first. I just have to say, I thought all the staff, everyone did such a great job. Excuse me. I ran into a handful of legislators at an event over the weekend afterwards, and a couple of them were the new ones, and they were so thrilled to get a sticker and loved learning more. And just, I mean, they're all excited about meeting everyone, but they really made an impact. And there are ones that live in the city and in the urban areas. And so I think that was a great opportunity. And there's a couple that didn't know that we were around. And so they were bummed they missed, but I made sure I kind of, I think they're aides, but I said, if not, I'll send them one of those flyers and told them next time. So, but it was great. I had lots of good feedback, and I just appreciate everyone bringing stuff and sponsoring, and Courtney and Allison and all the staff, and Smokey the Bear and Christina. The flyer was, I thought, fantastic, and Smokey the Bear was great, and just all the setup and collaborating and organizing. Courtney, thanks for getting the space done and all that. It's just lots of work. And that's the only complaint I heard, was some legislators that started to buzz through the halls. Smokey the Bear was there, and they all came to get a photo, but he was gone, Smokey Bear. So that's the only thing. Oh, I miss Smokey Bear. So that's the only thing I heard. But overall, I heard lots of good feedback. So anybody else have anything they want to add?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. Commissioner, great to see you all today. I thought it went off so well, and I really want to thank all the people. So obviously Courtney and I were behind the scenes in a lot of this, but there were even more people behind the scenes ensuring that we understood processes, we understood timing and all of that. So Christina, I just want to say a big thanks to James Lucero. He was so helpful as we were really conceptualizing what this was going to be, and then to DNR's legislative director, Daphne Gervais, as well. So they really gave us a lot to think about, and then it was so buzzing. So I think my reaction was, I guess the week or two before, the Daphne, our legislative director at DNR, said is still really calm at the Capitol. People weren't really coming in and out until about 8:45, and wow, it was just the opposite. And so, I came in with an expectation of maybe it would be very quiet and we wouldn't have these robust conversations except for a short period of time. And I just felt we all were engaged, not just with our legislative folks, but also with each other. So it was just nice to be in person as well, and really honor that commitment that we all have together here with this commission council.
And fantastic. I echo those comments, and yes, thanks for calling out James and Daphne, and that was great to see them, and yeah, really important work and relationships they have. Christina, and then Pat.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks, Allie, for recognizing James. I appreciate that. I'll pass that along to him. Yeah, I think I was really happy with how many of the Forest Health Council folks showed up, and so that was really good. And just want to thank Mark especially for sponsoring with the burritos and everything. Thank you. That was really popular, so that was great. I think we drew a lot of attention. I am curious about how much of an impact truly it made. I just would like to it's the scientist in me. I just would like to know, did it change people's perspectives? Did it bring awareness? So I think as we think about, if we do more of these into the future, how we think about understanding the effectiveness and trying to, I don't know if there's a survey or just kind of through conversations, we gauge that, but that's information that I think would be helpful. So thank you.
I think that's a great point. I thought about that too. I know all but one legislator from the House and Senate came to the breakfast for me. So I had to try to follow up with them, but one of them didn't see me, but they told me they had great conversation. I think it was with you, Allison, Senator Kipp. The other one saw me, and I think I'll ask some feedback, but maybe James and Daphne can just maybe follow up. Hey, did you go to the breakfast? What'd you think? And did the QR code help or something? I don't know, just some, just that kind of thing. We hope that they're reading that and seeing the impacts. So, Pat.
Yeah, I concur with everything that's already been said, but I would add that James gave us that little conversation starter about what district do you represent, and that was really helpful. It started a conversation right off the bat. It seems fairly simple, but I think it got things moving a little bit faster than hi, how are you, what's your name, that kind of thing. The other thing I would add is I talked to a couple of people there that were from the Joint Budget Committee and passed on the flyer, let them know which projects were successful and what had been funded and all that kind of stuff. So I think even the staffers that are there may have payoffs that we don't immediately see.
Great. And I agree with that as well. And maybe that's a great conversation starter. Some of them didn't have their badges on and were brand new. So I recognized them. So I went up and introduced them. And that was, I think, a good thing. And maybe we keep an eye out. We know which committee, or who's on which committee. So we kind of have faces to name. So if one of them come, we can maybe have a little extra time with them or something. That's, but that's hard, but that would be helpful. But great, Pat. I think I'm glad that worked. And that was a great thing for James to share. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, I would echo Christina and Pat's comments very much. But I do think that what we were doing down there was we had the hook. And if we got any bites or any nibbles right now, what resources can we put out there for them that would get our message out there that, 'cause, 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 ' we need material. We need to get results, and the results are that we get funding or support for these programs like the State Forest Service and other agencies, Department of Public Safety. We got to deliver results, and you do that by increased information. And I think we need to have some kind of a source or information packet or somebody that they can go to, because we are dealing with a complex set of problems and issues, and we need to have an in-depth explanation and resources for them to go to. If you get a hook and you get them interested in it, then you've got to get to the education part. And I don't know what we can do there. I don't have an automatic solution, but in the past, when the timber industry hosted events, we would host receptions and stuff, and we were pretty aggressive about, you get two kinds of legislators, ones that are just learning and they know nothing about it, and ones that have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And it's like teaching a class and you don't know whether you're teaching first graders or seniors, but you have to have materials for both, I guess is my suggestion. And what we can do to develop that, or can we have just a conduit where we direct people? I don't want to dump any more work on Christina's desk. Is there resources at the State Forest Service right now for public relations where we could say, this is your message that we can send them to? Is there a site? I guess let's get some results out of this thing. I mean, I want to get my $700 worth of burritos. I want to get some action out of this deal here. And so if we don't get support for the Department of Natural Resources, if we don't get action on the ground, if we don't help the State Forest Service, then maybe we all feel better, but we didn't deliver results. I'm looking for results, and I'm looking for ideas here. I don't have the answer. Maybe the conduits are already there. Maybe you've already got programs. Any help?
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I was thinking the same thing. And so I'm glad you brought that up. And then I'll go to Allison and Courtney. I'm wondering if we could scan that. I'm sure that document you all have has got a digital. Maybe we send, I don't know if that a lot of work, send it from the, I don't know what that works. Can you send them all to the legislatures, or could we as a committee or the Forest Health Council send it to all the legislators and say, thanks so much for coming to the breakfast. We're so thrilled to connect with you. Here's the flyer in case you didn't grab one, and please emphasize, please look at the QR code and let us know if you have questions. We want to celebrate the work that you have already approved and authorized. We want to share the successes. And I don't know if that might be another way, and just see what kind of maybe said, yeah, I came, I loved it, or, oh, I missed it. Oh, thanks for sending this. And that might be a way we can get some kind of numbers or feedback. I'm just curious. And Allison and then Courtney. But thank you, Mr. Moran. I think that's a great point. We can't hear you. You're still on mute. Sorry.
I'm trying to telepathically work with Courtney right now because I think she might answer this too. And so first I wanted to just think about, Christina, your comment of like how we can determine whether we have any traction. We can work. I was going to reach out to our team and our website team to see how many folks maybe have come to our website since, so we can gather that data and bring that. But then I will definitely ask Daphne about the follow-up email to our legislators. I think that's a fabulous idea and a way to keep that energy going. So great suggestions.
Thank you, Allison. And Courtney, are you typing, or is your mic working?
Yes, I'm on here. Hopefully speaking through my phone.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I was just on the same wavelength as you two. I just took on a follow-up would be great. There could be more information. So I took some notes on we can share the one. Okay, Allison will ask Daphne, but just while we're together, I'll gather information on what you all think would be the most appropriate things to include in a follow-up. So it could be, thank you for coming. Here's the one pager. Here's the website. Let us know if you have any questions. We're here as a resource. And then ask them if they have any feedback they want to share from the event. Is there anything else you all think would be valuable to share in the follow-up email?
Great question. I'm going to let Pat and then Mr. Morgan go ahead.
Yeah, this is a slight tangent, but I think at a minimum, we should also send Senator Cutter a thank you. It was nice of her to recognize the Forest Health Council on the Senate floor. And I'm guessing that she was probably pretty instrumental with Daphne in getting the whole legislative reception set up. It would be, I don't know, just seems like a nice follow through for her.
Great point. I had personally thanked her and also tagged her on some social posts so she could, but I think that's a great point. Formally, that might be a great idea. Thanks, Pat. Mr. Morgan.
I don't know how to put this, but essentially efforts like these around our outfit, we always keep your eyes on the prize. The prize is to deliver legislative support or dollars or votes to the agencies that are dealing with this problem. And I mean, as a group here, that's our prize. That's where we're trying to get to. We're trying to deliver votes or financial support and ideas, because it is a great group for ideas and knowledge as well. But I think any way we can do that to enhance that, I think the scorekeeping ideas are really good. And then going forward from there, if we can identify the key players in this, then we can take it to the next level and say, these are the folks. This is going to get kind of bald-faced here, but when you're in an industry lobbying group or whatever, you say, who are the key players? And right now we're trying to identify key players, key personnel on different committees and such. And then you reach out to them directly and try to advance. I mean, if we didn't believe in this agenda and we didn't believe in what we were doing, there's nothing wrong with trying to promote that every possible way that we can. And so I think we need to identify the key players that can really help you and help you get work done and move this down the road a little bit, because Colorado's got big timber problems. They got big forestry problems and environmental problems. And I see a lot of really good-hearted people here working real hard. And I want to make sure that we fire for effect, I guess.
Great point. And I think that's a great point as well. The follow-up. And then I want to ask Rob a question. I know he's not a member, but I want to ask for their feedback. But I am wondering, Allison and Courtney, we've had this discussion before about getting permission to to go for the committee and then also reach out on behalf of the council or as individuals, because I think that might be also, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I know the council meeting's coming up. Maybe that's a good discussion I agree. We did this. It was really well done. But also maybe it's important for the follow-up and reinforcement for that we're here and we're engaged and our work is a matter. So I don't know what that looks like, but I don't know if it's phone calls or emails. I'm supposed to be down there right now to breakfast, but after 60-hour week already, I just couldn't do another trip down to the Capitol today. So I don't think about that, but I'm going to ask Rob, because the Nature Conservancy was there, and Rob and team and others, and then also CSU, and we appreciated so much you being there and being an advocate and partner as well. And I wanted to get your feedback as someone was there pretty much the whole morning. So Rob, would you like to add anything too?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Commissioner. And we just really appreciated both Paige Lewis and myself were there and really appreciated the opportunity to be there, and really would just echo a lot of what's already been said, just about it being a great opportunity to message our work, of course, broader forest-based work, but through the Forest Health Council specifically, and just a great opportunity to meet not only with legislators directly, but staff as well. And then for me, I ended up spending a good bit of time just with other Forest Health Council members, which was super valuable as well. And so just really appreciated that opportunity to be able to talk to both legislators, but also other council members, and just thought it was a great morning. So hats off to Allison, Courtney, everyone who was kind of doing the organizing behind the scenes. And again, not anything new to add beyond just big thumbs up to what others have said, and I really appreciated being able to take part.
Thanks for being there and thanks for being here. And I appreciate that feedback.
Thank you.
So, if you think of other ideas or thoughts, or if Paige does, have them maybe send them to Courtney and Allison. That would be great. So I know we have some other things to move on. I guess, do we need to take this to the full council to ask permission to follow up with an email, or is that something we think we could just do, just to send back and do the one pager and then all of that work? And what else do you need from us to maybe follow through with this?
I think that if you all want me to send in a follow-up email, or Daphne, probably, she was the one that was emailing the legislators in the first place, she would probably send the follow-up email. I don't think that's going to need any approval from council. She sent out the invitation. I think she could send out a thank you. I think what I've collected from you all today is enough in terms of what you want in that email. And if you want anything else, now is a good time to let me know. And otherwise, Allison and I will work with Daphne to get a thank you and a follow-up sent out.
Great. I think the only thing that just make sure that one pager was attached, and then I think just how do they follow up and with who is probably a good thing in the email about who's the point person to go back to, and make that kind of, because they may say, well, who do we go back to? And if it's, obviously it's probably Daphne because she sent the email, but just in case they have questions, and if that's great because she's on the floor anyway, maybe they see her and grab her and pull her over. I think that's important. Mr. Morgan, do you have some other ideas?
Yes, that follow, if we reach out to the people that showed up for the breakfast in some format, I would really like to get some feedback from those people in the form of, let's make a real easy for them to do. What did you like? What didn't you like? And what areas do you think you need more information about? And what areas are of concern to you? I'm just trying to get whoever took the time and bothered to show up for that breakfast. I want to understand what's on their mind and what their thinking is and what their concerns are. And I'm not the wordsmith here, but in a well-crafted, doesn't have to be an officially check the box survey, but some kind of a survey to generate those, to answer their questions, because oftentimes we think we know what the issues are, and some of the people out there have issues that we didn't even know about or didn't even think about, and I'd like to learn what those were. If there's any kind of written response to that group, I'd be interested in that. It's not I'm making a lot of work for a lot more people here, but if we could include that. Just a thought.
Okay, appreciate all of that. Let's and I'm not sure how we find who showed up. I know we have some names that we could maybe, I know Senator Ms. Senator Sullivan and Court, and I know I could give him from Larimer, but yeah, I don't know. There were lots of people that I saw, but I didn't register all the names. So Courtney.
Hi, yes, I think that's a good question. I'd be curious in the future to hear from other groups how to track who shows up, because most people who were at the breakfast I didn't recognize, because I'm very familiar with legislators. But Mark, to speak to your point about having a little survey, I think that's a great idea. And I think we could potentially just send it out in the full follow-up that says if you attended, or honestly, if you didn't attend, also, what are the areas that you need more education in? What are your areas of greatest concern? And kind of what could we do for you? So I like the idea of sending out a tiny survey. It'd be amazing if it could somehow be embedded in the email. I will try to see if there's an easy way to send a poll like that.
You always send me surveys, and that forces me to respond to you. And that's a prompt to get off my dead butt and get the job done for you. And I think maybe this is the case here as well. So.
Well, I appreciate everyone who responds to my council surveys. We'll see if the legislators respond, but I will put together a little poll.
Great. All right, let's move on so we can get to the rest of the discussion. So I'm not sure if everyone, this was something that a lot of folks said, oh, yeah, we just had this committee meeting. I remember that you guys had no budget and all these things. So they had, a lot of them that showed up had been already kind of had discussion about the Forest Health Council for the Sunset Committee. And I had forgotten and didn't realize that was part of the original legislation from 2021 or 2022, Allison, 2022? When I don't remember, but and so I don't know which one, Allison, Courtney, maybe explain Sunset for some of those folks and what that means and what does that look like and where we're at. Thought that would be just a helpful thing for us to all understand and have a foundation of knowledge going forward. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll be very brief. But so the Forest Health Council underwent sunset review with Dora, and I'm trying to find the exact date that I testified on it, but I cannot find that at the moment. But in January, we were up in House Ag Committee to present the sunset review process, among other not just Forest Health Council was there presented. And the recommendation was to continue the work of the council. And so that was what was presented. I testified on that, which was great. And the committee voted to approve the Sunset Report recommendation, which is to continue Forest Health Council. So the next step is a bill to be introduced to carry this recommendation forward. That has not yet been created. And I believe Representative Smith is our sponsor for this bill to come. So once a bill is in place, I will of course let you all know, or Daphne will, and we'll see that through the session.
Great. Is that Representative Leslie Smith from Boulder County? Okay, she's my friend. She is my really good friend, and that's the one I didn't see come by, but maybe she was there, but that's the one I didn't see. She represents part of Larimer and most of Boulder, so, or Boulder County, so I just, that's cool. So that's good connection, so thank you. But that, can you just explain the sunset or process and what that means just for everybody?
Sure.
And why that was there and how that committee kind of works, because I think that's maybe, for a lot of folks, maybe something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the statute for when the Forest Health Council moved from under the State Forest Service to the DNR, there's a clause in there that there would be a sunset review in 3 years with a specific date, or that it would close at a certain date, and so it would require a sunset review. And so Dora does an independent review, produces a report. I was the staff person. Well, Dan Gibbs and I were the staff people to be able to provide the information as part of the sunset review. I'm going to drop it in the chat after I talk so you guys can see what it is, but they ask for The review itself asks for accomplishments, asks for structure, and lots of other things. And of course, like a deeper reasoning and meaning why we would want this to continue. So that process then goes, then DORA does their own evaluation of this report and then makes a recommendation to move forward in either sunsetting or not sunsetting or maybe something else. So I'll share that report and it's all public information. The one thing that I just want to add that came in discussion when the committee was, and Courtney, I'll put the full name in the chat after this, but when the committee was voting, the recommendation was to keep the Forest Health Council without a new sunset date. And there was discussion amongst a few committee members to put a potential amendment on this bill that we would look at the council again in 5 years and evaluate it again. But it was not a proper time for an amendment. So just the sunset review recommendation was voted on. And I would suspect that when the bill is introduced, that the conversation for a potential amendment for another look at a sunset review or would come up. So that's all I really have to share that way about process, but I'll drop the link in the chat so you can all see our sunset doc.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thanks for testifying and being there and advocating for that. I think it's very important and just want to make sure everyone had the same information so we knew, kind of where we're at and where we're going. So this is really important. And so we'll move on. Thanks for all of that, Allison, and advocating. And I'm really glad that was approved and going forward. So now we're on their last item. And I want to start off with, I had talked with Courtney. It sounds like there's been some discussions since, we're so close to getting some kind of suggestions, but since there's no money and there's still a lot of budget concerns and still a lot of things happening in the legislature, 120 bills, it just felt like maybe we add a little more time, just take the kind of the time clock off, pressure off, so we can maybe dive a little deeper, get some more information, have some more discussion, and maybe hear from the full council as well. And so today we're still going to work on these, but I just want you to all know that we expected that we were going to come up with some concrete, as close to concrete things as we could. But maybe we just take a breath and look at these with maybe not that pressure of formalizing something today. I think you all probably feel like I do. We're so close to something, but it's not quite there. And how do we ask for funding? And also I've been bringing up, how do we preserve the progress we made with some of the bills and some of the programs, and how do we keep those going so we don't lose the progress we've gained? So does anyone have any questions about that? I think, Courtney, all of you had said maybe we could move this back to, we could still have these conversations, but maybe move it back to April. So just wanted to share that. But Courtney, would you like to add to that? I hope I got that all correct.
Yeah, I'll share a few more things, which is that, yeah, I think part of this is, okay, I won't start there. I think at next week's council meeting, the council would still love to hear what the committee is considering, kind of like what are some of the themes or topics that are rising to the top, or what are some of the things that this group is considering. So I still think that would be nice to refine today, is to be able to pull out a few things to share with the council next week. We had originally had a really early date, a February date, for finalizing recommendations so that they could be shared with the departments, so that DNR and DFPC and the State Forest Service could potentially see the recommendations, and, you know, if they wanted to take any of them and incorporate them into their own budget planning, they could. But, you know, the Wildfire Matters Interim Committee doesn't meet till summer. So we thought that there actually was time to push this a little bit. So I'm still working with Brett and the directors to schedule the spring meeting, but I think it's often in April. And then I want to say one other thing, which is that part of the things we'd been discussing is how to get the implementation of the 30-year vision up and running. And so there's some conversations, you know, we know that the whole council is very vested in that. Then there's also conversations about whether or not there could be a budget request for implementation of the 30-year vision. And that's not yet something that there's been enough conversations about. So that was one of the big impetuses for pushing this, is because it's such a priority and we're not yet ready. And so we're hoping that, or I imagine that next week at the meeting, we could name that as something that this committee would consider. And then we can also just get council feedback on whether or not they also think that's, you know, the 30-year vision implementation is something that would be a priority. So that was just a little bit more context, and then happy to, pass it back for the full conversation.
Really, thank you for bringing that all together, and I just really appreciate all of that, and just grateful for maybe just feeling like we can have a little more time to work on a few things. So, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, I've watched several conversations about this, and I'm not interested in pressuring Ellison for any more information on exactly what the governor's task force is going to be on this mountain pine beetle. But I do think it's going to drive a lot of what we're trying to do. And so therefore, backing up just a little bit might be helpful to see what they get the rollout on that and exactly what's going to happen. And that will happen on its own time frame. But at that point, I think there's going to be, it's going to be the focus of a whole lot of people in the natural resources trade of what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And waiting till we get a little information about that might be real helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Allison.
Yeah, Mark, I'm happy to share what I can share. Hopefully, appointments will be out today, at least the announcement, but I can't guarantee we're working with the Gov's office, and then a press release very soon. But I couldn't agree more that there's something building with this task force that we don't know. We don't know what is going to come of it yet. Now, the time frame is for the first, from now until the end of the fiscal year, is that the task force is going to create a work plan for the, for what the task force is going to do. And independently, I've been working in the background to really digesting the executive order. And there's an A to O list of, the task force shall type of approach. And when you look at that list, it really is balanced amongst the three legs of the cohesive wildfire strategy. So I do believe this task force will be heavily focused on forestry. However, there will be a firefighting component or a fire service component as part of this too. I think it is smart to give ourselves a little bit more time to see how it unravels in the next couple months. The first meeting will be in the spring, and an anticipated second meeting before the end of the fiscal year as well. So it does give us some time to react, complement, and support in the ways that we think we can as the council, and that we're embedded in it as well.
Thank you, Allison, and I agree. I couldn't agree more with everything you both have said. Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on, because staff time is limited, positions are limited. You're not going to have a bunch more. Funding is limited, so they're going to roll out a plan, and then when we see what that plan takes for money and for time and for cash, then we can see which programs that we can try to promote that we're also working on. But I mean, obviously, that's going to drive the conversation. So thank you for the update, but I think there's only so much time in the day and only so many staff people and only so many folks to work on it and only so many dollars. So, and I think once again, we know where the dog is and where the tail is, but I think we'll get the roll out here and then we know what we can realistically try to accomplish on our other objectives.
And I just wanted to echo everything you're all saying. I agree with that. And I sit on another public and policy finance committee for another state board and entity who also has been mandated to provide mental health services for first responders, especially in the rural areas, to give them supports and what they are supposed to be doing in the program that they're supposed to be implementing has doesn't have enough money to do what it needs to do. And that's conversation. I think there are a lot of places, there are a lot of folks that say, well, we just got to do it. And there's like, well, there's no money. And where are we going to get the money? There's no money. So I just think these are conversations happening everywhere. And I'm sure the legislators and staff in every state department is feeling they know how important all this work is, and some of this, and I'm sure there's lots of finding efficiencies and stuff, but there's some really important things happening, all these priority things, and I think we all know that this is a conversation coming from all different sides and perspectives, and hopefully we can all just give everyone grace and come from that viewpoint of trying to listen to understand and understand that for some other people that there's lots of really targeted focused things and how we can maybe all figure out how we support each other and work our ways through this. But I am worried about what kind of fire year we're having with the snowpack. And I've been up hiking the watersheds and had a talk with the Rocky Mountain superintendent, and we're talking about how he might have to even plow Trail Ridge because there's really not that much snow when they try to open up with their traditional date. So, I mean, those are things I never thought I'd ever see in my lifetime. So it's of large note. And that's, I hike those watersheds. Those are pretty critical watersheds and headwaters. So I have a lot of concerns. So anyway, so let's move on. Let's bring that list up. And I think let's start with this today, let's do this because I want to also maybe give you back a little bit of time for a Friday. Let's start with which ones we really want to share with our meeting with the Forest Health Council and provide that so they can see kind of where we're at and where we're stuck, or not say stuck, where we are focused and kind of where our hearts and minds are. So let's look at that list, and Courtney, thanks for doing that and helping kind of bring those up to kind of from our conversations, the kind of priorities where we think. So, okay, so we have so Courtney, thanks for putting that in so everyone can kind of look at that. So we have first, well, why don't you just look over this real quick, and then and so the Forest Health Tracker, I think that's also a recommendation from the Leveraging Resources. Courtney, is that true?
It's not from the Leveraging Resources Committee directly. More I was talking with Brett, and because this is something that the council has put a lot of energy into, we had a placeholder here. I have not heard from him recently on whether or not they want to consider that. So I don't think, since I haven't heard that it's a yes, we probably should move it to the bottom of the list, because I know we wouldn't want to bring it up without CFRI and the State Forest Service really clarifying that they do want that included.
Thank you for that. I'm just going to work down the list so we can kind of get something to work off of. I do think I think it would be, for me, definitely placeholder for the rural navigation coordination, and also I think we want to talk about Senate Bill 5 and continue that work and maybe see what we can do to keep that going forward. Oh, and also along with the 10-year implementation, that's going to take, would that be legislative because we need funding, or is that just a recommendation in general?
So I think one reason we would want to keep it here, I think in its greatest, most resourced expression, this would be a budget request. We're not yet sure if that's appropriate given the super tight budget. And so within DNR, we wanted to have some more conversations to see what implementation, what a facilitated implementation would really look like. There's the most resourced option, which is budget request, but then there's, something in the middle where we're seeking outside resources, or we're working with current resources. So I think it would be great to include this, but then we share more than 5 themes. I think next week we could share 8 themes, 9 themes, so that then whichever are the strongest, those can become legislative recommendations. And perhaps one like this, if it ends up being not appropriate to request funding, then it can fall off without needing like reapproval.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I think that at least recognizing, because that's one of our things was the vision, but we all know we don't want the vision just to be done and sit out on a shelf. We want it to, how do we get it going? Because obviously a lot that we've talked about already with the Pine Beetle Hall, that's all kind of interlaced there. So I think that's great. And then I know the Leveraging Resources Committee wants to come and maybe be a part of one of our deliberations sessions and maybe add some recommendations to maybe for us to consider and to join with our recommendations. And is that, I don't know if they've got anything firm yet, but should we go ahead and mention that we're going to maybe ask them in the future to come and bring something to help with the list at a meeting in the future, or what would you like to do with that?
So last time the Leveraging Resources Committee met, they thought that the deadline for legislative recommendations was, today or next Wednesday. And so they said, let's not rush it. We don't have anything. And they don't yet know about the new timeline. So I'm not sure if, given the extra couple months, they are going to want to pull together a recommendation or not. But last I heard, they said they didn't have enough time to come up with one for this round. I plan on talking with Kate later today, and I can tell her about the updated timeline, and also the committee is meeting on Monday, so we can talk about it then also.
Okay, excellent. Let's scoot back up, and thanks for putting the Senate Bill 5 up there. I do think that's important. We had a lot of success there, and I just would like to see if we can keep that going. It's like we got a stronghold as we're climbing up this hill of mitigation and the work. I feel like that was a big foothold that we had to get us up, climbing up the hill, and I hate to lose that foothill for others who are coming behind us. So if I'm going to keep going down the list, if you all have something to chime in, or if you want to wait till the end, just please signal that you'd like to put some feedback. Next is the woody biomass, which, we bring up every year, and I know it doesn't rank high in the full council's rankings, but I do think this is still a missing leg of the stool, especially with the mountain pine beetle and having hot logs and education for folks to understand they just can't cut down those trees and then sell them for firewood. Things like that. I'm wondering, this all became a high priority for us. And I think we should definitely bring this theme and bring all of those points to the council and share that as almost unanimous consensus on this being a high priority. So anyone have anything to say about that? Pat?
Yeah, I would just agree with you. I know it always kind of falls down the list, but it's one of those things that we can only kick the can down the road so far, and then we're going to be behind the 8 ball. I was wondering, are there any of our current legislative ideas where we could leverage some federal funding so the state would only be on the hook for funding woody biomass, as an example, if there was a federal match? It seems like that might put some pressure in the federal system and in the state system a little bit to work together, and we'd get the money to get more work done.
I think I agree with you. We have kicked the can down the road on this, and it's and just to kind of make some Friday fun, it's a big gnarly beast, but I think it's something we have to address. And I agree with you. Can we find some ways also to kind of blend and braid funding? I'm also wondering about business, the OEdit or some circular economy legislation and funding that would help kind of pull something together. But we have to have a kind of a what do we pull together? I know I'm trying to do that up here, but it needs funding, and I know how much we need to start something. That's a lot of money. So I'm just wondering, just kind of how we're going to address that. How would we word that, especially knowing that most everything on here takes money, but also I keep seeing the governor especially is talking about extending the tax, sales tax credit or the tax credit or incentives for selling pine beetle wood. And so I know, Mr. Morgan, I know that is, and we know how you feel. That's not really the big idea to push it where it needs to go, but maybe it's at least something, especially since the governor's been out speaking about it. But I see your hands up. What do you think?
Me personally, I think that's fine. Political figures need to get elected, and they get elected by looking like they're trying to do something to solve a problem. And so you have to have credit and you have to have rewards. That's fine. I don't think it'll have a big impact. The one that I think will have a big impact is how much biomass we're going to remove from the forest and how much we're not. I think on the one hand, we're talking about 2 or 3% on a sales tax. On the other one, you're really looking at about 60% of the cost of your doing forestry work per acre. So now we're talking about something that how we handle the biomass, and a lot of that can be done by how we approach our federal partners, how they're going to handle biomass. All of that is one big basket, and there's X amount of market out there. And if they remove a bunch of biomass product that's going to be delivered off the market, right now, currently, in a lot of places, they've gone back to large pile burning, which is very efficient burning, but that's what they're doing. Because they can't stand the cost. It doubles or 60% of the cost of doing the forestry work. So I think getting some impact on how much biomass, there's going to be plenty of biomass. And I think one thing that's kind of evolved in the industry right now is that we have taken a lot of irrigation water and we have reprioritized it to urban environment. And now in that urban environment, we're producing a lot of biomass there that's coming into the biomass sites. And when that biomass comes from the urban environment, it doesn't have hardly any haul costs. It's being generated right down here in the Front Range cities. And they're filling a lot of the biomass market with that. So when you're in the business of trying to market and remove biomass from forestry projects, you're $700, $800, $900 a load behind the curve. And so I think anything that we can do to look at treatments and dealing with our federal partners that leave biomass on the site as much as we can in good science and good forestry, I think would be a huge economic impact. We see these jobs where we do biomass manipulation coming in the $1,500, $1,600 range, $2,000 an acre range, and we see the total removal jobs coming in the $4,000 range, and that's real money, and that's acres, as Pat Dorsey mentioned earlier. That's acres that we could be getting done and treating. So you asked for it, Commissioner. There's my answer.
No, I think that's great. I think we need to have a frank conversation and discuss these. Just in the interest of time, I think we got a few solid ideas and concepts here and what's highlighted in blue. And that's a lot of time and discussion. And I think that we can at least present that, right? I don't think we need to maybe refine it further. Maybe we add in some of Mr. Morgan's comments in there, but also when we talk about what Mr. Morgan's talking about is, I think it also has an extra layer with the mountain pine beetle outbreak is a lot of that wood can't stay there. It has to have and as I understand, it has to have a specialized tip to do the certain kind of chipping different than the other chipping. So it takes care of the larvae is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Morgan. And I'm wondering if we also maybe highlight that, that like a whole nother pine beetle, another box in there under biomass, since that's coming out with all of the things with maybe with the task force and who's on that is going to be recommending, but maybe that's an extra layer in here is how do we support dealing with the biomass in an effective way for when it comes to the pine beetle, those what they call hot logs. Courtney, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm happy to add anything to this list. I'm curious. I love what y'all are saying of like, you know, what we do with the biomass, how much we decide to leave or take, how we're managing it, especially with pine beetles, really important. It seems like some of those are agency decisions, whether it's U.S. Forest Service decisions or landowner decisions or the project manager or the State Forest Service or Colorado Parks and Wildlife rather than legislative policy. So I'm still trying to listen for the policy recommendation as you all are discussing this. And so I would welcome some clarity on what I could include here that would be a state, like a piece of state legislation, because I would love to add it. And sometimes it's hard for me to connect all the dots. I'm still new to so welcome to dot connect.
You're absolutely spot on. I agree. Absolutely. I think you're spot on. So, Mr. Morgan, your hand's up.
Courtney, you are exactly correct in what you're looking for, in my view. And I think the thing there is that I always call it a place at the table. But when the Federal Forest Service comes up with their timber soil programs or their fuels management programs or their burning programs, there has to be a conduit from the state and local communities to them. There has to be a connect in there to where they have to consider that and how they go about doing it. I don't know how, I don't have the answer to that right now, but that's the link you're looking for. That's the link that's needed. And then one other quick comment to Commissioner Shattuck McNally there. What you have to do with bugs is you have to disturb the cambial layer, the layer just inside the bark. You can do that by chipping. You can do that by peeling. Modern sawmills, bigger mills, peel their logs before they harvest them. So you get that disruption of the larva. So So, and you're right about, we're gonna do forestry, and we're gonna do forestry with it removes mountain pine beetle as well as at-risk stands. And so then how we treat that after the fact is exactly right. So also, just as a thought, the bugs tend to infest lower down in the tree, and the infestation thins out as you go up the bole of the tree. The bigger the diameter, the more likely to hold a lot of mountain pine beetle. So there's a lot of material in the limbs and tops that does not have pine beetle in it to begin with. You really need to deal with the bole of the tree. So just something to think about. We don't want to end up treating a whole bunch of material. It isn't going to make a difference.
I just always really appreciate your expertise here and feedback, Mr. Morgan. And Courtney, I see your hand up, but first I just wanted to say, I think we have the two ideas there. That's the policy extending the tax incentive for blue stained wood, even though it's not. I think we should do that. And then also we talked about maybe looking at changing the regulations or reducing. That's another one I think we could look at adjusting, especially, I know it's another small or big one, but I think it's something that maybe in smaller counties or some smaller industries, and that might be helpful. But I also see your hands up. What would you like to look at?
Okay, thanks so much. I just want to hop back to Mark's comment. And what I'm hearing him say is that maybe this isn't a state legislative issue. It's more about how does the U.S. Forest Service collaborate, which I don't think is a state legislative issue, but I did make a note in our meeting notes that needs to be a conversation. And so I'm wondering if maybe we can invite our U.S. Forest Service representatives, people who are on the council. You know, I know Todd Neal was at the breakfast, and Troy, the regional foresters, on the council. I wonder if we can invite some of them to a committee meeting and it's not a presentation, but it's a conversation about how would this happen. You know, maybe it's not that the state house puts a bill up that says the U.S. Forest Service has to collaborate more, because I don't think that's how it works, but we could have a conversation. So that's an idea, because I want to follow through on what you're saying, Mark, and I'm wanting to find the right avenue to follow through on.
Excellent. I think that's a good thing. Pat and everyone else, and then it's one, Mr. Ring, I'll go back to you a minute. Pat and Christina and Allison, looking at biomass, and I mean, I agree with what we keep. I know the full council maybe doesn't see I know they're ranking on these, but I still think this is a really important part of the puzzle to solve, and especially now. So before I go back to Mr. Morgan, and I'm not, who's the other hand? Oh, Christina, and then I'll go to you, Ms. Morgan. I just wonder what you see there. I'm still trying to craft one in my head, and that's where I've been kind of stuck the last 2 weeks, is just looking at that list, trying to say what would it be without, money. So
yeah, I think that this is a very challenging, complex problem. I don't think that, we're gonna like identify a specific legislative thing today to bring to the council in that time. And I do think I really like Courtney's suggestion about talking with the U.S. Forest Service. There's so many barriers on the national forest, and some that they can control and some that they can't. But that's where the majority of the supply is. And I do think that having conversations with them to understand truly what the barriers are in terms of policy or state recommendations, even federal, just having that conversation would be really valuable. So I think that that's a really good next step. And that could be something that we recognize at the Forest Health Council full meeting, is just, we know this is a problem. We know it needs to get solved. We don't know what that looks like, but we need to have some conversations with U.S. Forest Service as a committee. And then also the Colorado Mass Timber Coalition. I think that, they're trying to work on very similar type of concepts. So I think that would be another group to talk with as well. I do think this is important. I know I put my name under the biomass stuff, but that being said, I don't have a good recommendation. As far as the task force goes with the pine beetle, I think that they're really going to have to wrestle with this problem too. So there may be some things that come out of that task force, but those are just some thoughts for how we address kind of this problem that we want to solve and how we handle maybe some discussions in the future and with the upcoming Forest Health Council full group. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I agree wholeheartedly with all of that. And I do think that we have those two low-hanging fruit ones that we think would be small, but maybe not hugely impactful, but something that could not be detrimental, but helpful. But also, I do think we have to really focus and share with the Forest Health Council that we think this is a really important area, a big theme, and we somehow have to find something there. And maybe it's a recommendation from the task force or the other industries. And how do we get us all together to find something to bring for legislative suggestion? Mr. Morgan.
I don't think the state is as empty-handed in this consideration or negotiation as you think. The last big pine beetle epidemic was in the lodgepole pine, which was higher in elevation. A great deal of this problem is going to be down in the WUI areas, interface areas. So a lot of it's going to occur on private ground as well. And so I think the state is going to be a very active partner. And then I also think that I keep beating the GNA drum, Good Neighbor Authority, as much as I can, because that's the more I think we can do this as policy, lobby the feds to turn over more of their day-to-day management to GNA, because then the state has some input in getting the work done. And a lot of other states are much more aggressive with GNA than we are. And I think the most aggressive GNA policy that we can lobby for, push for, legislate for, funding for, I do think that's a huge tool to do this work on the ground. And when you have a good relationship between your state foresters and your federal foresters, then the state can help the feds achieve their management goals, and the feds can help the state achieve their management goals. And you can also use fire in a positive way when you have that combination and both of them working together. And I know there's a lot of people here that want to see that. So I don't think you're without leverage, and I don't think that you're coming to the table as paupers here. The feds are a big player in this game, but a lot of this operation is going to occur down in the WUI areas, and it's going to occur mostly in WUI areas because that's the areas that have not been actively managed and have got the bug problem. So just a thought there. Ruined your day again.
Yeah, no, and I think we had recommended that the last year, just about the Good Neighbor Authority and the money. But Allison, I know you have some really good insights here. What your hands up? What would you like to add?
I just wanted to honor what Christina was saying about how complicated of an issue this is, and also that we can't stop conversation on all of this. And so when I look at these, there's a reason I don't have my name on any of these yet. Or maybe I do. It looks like I do have one. But it's if I don't have my name on this, it's not because I don't think this is the highest priority that we need to focus in as a council. So I just want to say I like the idea of bringing in some more conversations between now and our next full council meeting late in the spring or summer. I don't know when that will actually take, to see if there are any nuggets we can grab from the U.S. Forest Service or from Mass Timber. But what I really wanted to add on that is that the work group, the Wildfire and Watershed Initiative for Resilient Colorado, which is at just a coalition of people that have been meeting. They were able to present to us Julie Shapiro with Keystone Policy Center and Ben Guion. They were one of our presentations. They are working on a forest restoration economy workshop, or something of those sorts. And I think it would be also great to possibly bring them back in to talk about some of their findings in the last couple months and what's really driving them to bring together this deeper conversation. Because as you mentioned, Mark, it's costly. It's the elephant in the room, right? We can't just keep saying do more and not think about what we're doing with what the more is. And so it really is the elephant in the room. And I think we've got people to come back and also help steer some or share what else might be out there and how we can support these efforts. So that would be my suggestion, is to bring a few people back in.
I think I think that's a great suggestion. I wanted to ask you, Allison, even maybe you think this is not the big priority right now. I still think we need to raise. Do you feel like it's still a good idea to raise to the full council? This is, as you said, a big issue that we need some more feedback, but it's something we do need to find some solutions. And we're just been wrestling. If you think about it, we've been wrestling about this with at least the last 3 years. And it keeps coming back along with workforce. So I think at least highlighting it next week that we're still and we're trying to bring some big people, but maybe just at least have those 2 little nuggets, that these are 2 little low-hanging fruit that we've seen, and at least have that. So all right, let's do that. And I agree with all the suggestions, and I hope you all do too. Anyone not okay with bringing, I think we had 4 agencies that we want to bring back in, at least 3 I think mentioned. I think it'd be great to see if we can get those on. I know you all are super busy and that's a lot of work, but I think we do need to bring those folks back and see what we can. So the next one, let's see, I was going back to my sheet. Mr. Morgan.
Real quick, when we're looking at agencies in more rural areas in this state, a lot of this intermix with this Ponderosa pine would be with the BLM and not just the Forest Service. So I would like to make sure that we reach out to them in some way, shape, or form.
Allison?
I just want to second that.
Okay. You want to repeat that for Courtney? I think she's writing furiously and I was writing deck. You want to repeat that, Mr. Morgan, just to make sure that we emphasize that? Just
as we're bringing agencies or people back in where we learn their concerns and they learn ours, I think the BLM, this is going to be lower elevation, mixed raising land in Ponderosa pine. So the BLM would have an important part in this in certain areas of this state. That's all.
No, and I agree with you, especially in Lerner County. We have a lot of, especially around, and Bureau of Reclamation too, right? They have this, but that's a great part. Those are great people to add. So I know, Christina, you're our Colorado State Forest Service person, but I think we want to make sure the state is also part of those conversations or represented in those conversations. If we are going to bring all those folks and make sure that they have their chance to weigh in on this formally in that. So Allison.
I just didn't lower my hand.
So in my 8.5 hours of county commissioner meetings yesterday, that are continuing today, as I did, I literally was in the dentist chair getting a filling in while I was voting on support things because it was just going on and on. We say, if you don't put your hand down, you owe everybody a donut. And so I owed at least 1 donut yesterday. So I'll just say you owe us a donut, but we never have to bring donuts, but that's kind of it's kind of an old saying that they used to do. Someone used to have to bring donuts in, but let's move on and look at the next one. that was Senate Bill 5. I think we already talked about maybe looking at bringing that back and seeing if we can keep that going forward and not lose track on that, especially since those schools probably expanded up. Anybody, and these are just concepts, just we don't have to formalize it. Allison.
I just want to report I did talk to Daphne yesterday about implications of asking for state funding on this versus the potential if it was to be reauthorized or extended. And we saw this a lot last legislative session where we would add gifts, grants, and donations as an additional means of getting funding. So that was her recommendation. If we were to put forth something about Senate Bill 23-005.
I think that's a great suggestion, and actually one must be on the same wavelength. I was going to add that we, just like the 4-H thing, we just add that opportunity to add anyone. There are some philanthropic folks around the area that are looking for things to put their money into that are maybe a little different than housing and things. So I think this would be great. Mr. Morgan.
Curriculum in colleges and high schools are always evolving constantly. Things become more focused and less focused and more in need. And I would like to see, without having to ask for more money, what could be done to redirect existing resources within the educational system in this state towards more natural resource management concerns. I think at some point you have to take a hard look at what the needs are for the state and where the current resources are being spent. And you don't always need more resources. Sometimes they just need to be redirected. And I don't know how that goes about happening, but I see some programs that get a lot of funding and get a lot of effort. And then I don't make light of those, but I balance those with what the needs are for our force in this state. And I don't think they're in good balance. How many more chefs do we need to educate in our junior colleges here in Colorado? And how many boots do we need on the ground managing our forests? And nobody wants to have that conversation either, but I'm the whipping boy for unpopular subjects, so that's fine. But is there a way to redirect resources and help fill some of this educational gap?
Yeah, I did have a conversation earlier this week talking with the CSU regional director or something, just because we have a check-in, and I said I appreciate all their support on that and what they're trying to do. And I said we still see that as a priority. It's just the funding. And she said that they had purchased from 4-H their forestry curriculum for 4-H, just so they were ready in case there ever was, but they still feel that as a value and they understand the money constraints. So they're adapting it because they feel like it didn't quite meet Colorado's needs. And so they're trying to adapt some of it to, so it's not, other parts of the country would be deciduous trees, and they're trying to adapt some of that to focus on what's here and maybe try to have that happen where folks want to go. I heard as we was this last year, we did this in some counties on the western slope, smaller counties, but mountain resort counties like Grand County and stuff heard about what we were trying to do, and they got really super excited. And some of them, a lot of the counties were commissioners that called CSU saying, we want that here. How do we do that? We want this here. So I wanted to just share that maybe even though weren't successful what we were trying to do, it raised awareness, and some of these counties want to try to partner there and might have, we all are shrinking resources, but it might be something that maybe the spark, somebody finds something to do with the CSU and the extension with the 4-H program adding this. So I just wanted to share that's progress, I feel, because they didn't have that before. And so I just thought you all like to know that. I think I mentioned before about the Poudre School District. They graduated over 40 folks. That hearing for that change 3, I think it's called, they put that in the chat last time, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but they're talking and trying to get that funding. And the fire commission had done it to get firefighters, and they had gotten successfully to do that like last year. That's how those school districts got the funding to do that, and they are still very excited and on board with that. And so I don't know if we can have a conversation with the fire commission too. If maybe we need to talk with them when they are also successfully getting grants for like wildland firefighters. How do we partner and know about that to maybe help expand it so it's also mitigation? I know that's what they're doing, but that might be something we need to talk about. But I do think this in general, providing this career pathways is another focus area for us to emphasize again. I don't know where that funding is right now, but I wanted to just note that Poudre School District is closing some mountain or rural schools, even with the funding they got to try to keep schools open. Their enrollment's dropping. I think we see across the state enrollment's dropping. And so I think they're redirecting a lot of things. And so I know we can just hopefully just keep on that pathway to show this is a very important and critical pathway. I'm not so sure how we help direct that, but maybe if folks like the idea in their local communities, like the Grand County and some of them that want to see 4-H or have this career pathway, maybe we planted some seeds and some good things for future that we can nurture. And I'm not sure what this looks like, because again, it takes money, but I also think it'd be great to see how we can use workforce development grants, because there's money there, along with some OEDIT for circular economy, and how can we bring all these pots of money together along with any gifts or grant to move forward. And so I know that's a complicated thing to look at, but and I'm not sure that's a legislative thing, but that's just wanted to share. I was really glad to hear that even maybe that didn't work, it sounds like they there's a new program or somehow a new program to have this pathway for 4-Hers. So anybody have anything more to add to that? Is this something all, Mr. Morgan, and then is anyone against putting this on, that we still think workforce and career pathways is a thing to do?
That would be fine with me. I think one thing that I keep seeing, a lot of these communities and more local things come at this from the fire side. And if you're involved in fires, it's the old fire triangle. Fires are heat, fuel, and oxygen. All right. That's a component of it. And the only one you deal with in advance is fuels. And so we need to harness that energy for fire, for fuels management, because what you're doing is you're fighting fire in advance when you're managing your fuels. So the local political drive for activity comes from the fire side. We've got to connect a switch that fuels management or control burn is firefighting in advance. So just a thought on that. I don't know how, if you're going with these educational programs and we keep coming back to the firefighting and the fire certificates, and I think that's great, and that's a way to get them involved, but we got to get the next step in there too, which is being proactive.
This proposal's not in front of.
Courtney, Christina, Allison, any nuggets, or anybody, any nuggets that you see there that are valuable? Courtney, speak. Thank you. Speak freely, please. Jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. It sounds like CSU Extension already purchased this curriculum, and I'm wondering, it sounds like they might need less resources to implement it. I wonder if there's even a scaled down version of this, or there's some version where the state pays for part of it, but then it sounds like there was a lot of county and local interest where like maybe a county could pitch in to pay for part of this. I'm wondering if there's some way to recommend this again, but it has a smaller fiscal note and maybe it's more of a pilot.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were trying to do before, but I can go out back and reach to them and see if we can, because I did say they scaled it down for last year's,
Yeah.
but now that they purchased it, she was going to get back and because I thought it's something we could always have in the back pocket if we ever ended up having some funding to do this. But I can see if maybe we even, since I know she has counties who are interested, and there's some counties that have passed some wildfire funding, maybe we can reach out to a couple of those who might be interested in being included in the pilot, and then before we say, hey, you need to do this, and see how that looks, and maybe that's just another continued conversation. Is that what you're thinking, Courtney?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering I'm trying to remember her name.
Carrie Rollins?
Yes, would that be Carrie Rollins reaching out to the counties to see if anyone would be interested in that? Or I'm just trying to think of what the next steps are to even know if this would be feasible.
I was going to say, she knows she mentioned Grand for sure. I could reach out to her and just have her tell me which ones and see what we can do, and maybe trying to have some folks who are interested parties in partnering for funding wise, and then I can come back to our next meeting with that and add to that. But I just wanted to share. I was thrilled that they thought this was so worthy that, and I don't know how much the curriculum was, but they're still working on adapting it. But and they seem like they're pretty overrun and strained as well. But it's certainly they thought this was very valuable and at least took a step forward. Mr. Morgan.
Just that I think I've got to educate myself on the actual nuts and bolts of 4-H. I try to be pretty involved with 4-H, but not in the direct how the state funds the programs individually. Generally, our input in it is things that we can do for local 4-H chapters and clubs and stuff. And somehow, I think the success or failure of this will be truly to get a community buy-in, Commissioner. And I think connecting that switch is probably going to end up in your court. I mean, this not yours individually, but statewide. It's going to take somebody probably at the county level to say, we want to have this program, we want to do this program. And honestly, I can remember way back when 4-H was, forestry was a big part of 4-H, and most of it has just gone away. The leaders have gone away. The emphasis in the clubs have gone away, and I think we're really missing it. And years ago, a good friend of mine did his master's and doctoral on writing the management. It was a management course or whatever that was used throughout the country in 4-H for wildlife habitat. That's what his thing was, wildlife. And it sponsored a really big program nationwide. And there was competition for that, and it really interested a lot of kids. It's really ancient history, 30, 40 years ago. But I almost see like we need something like that for forestry again, but I think it's going to, excuse me, have to come with at the county level and the local business level. I've got to figure out a way to kick some of my friends and neighbors in the timber industry's butt to get them online with some of the county people and with state direction to get this. I don't think it's going to be from the top down, I guess.
Well, but if we build it up from the bottom up, and I already figured I would be making some phone calls, but we can bring this back and see if we can bring and support all those, as we've mentioned before, the gifts and honorary and stuff or in kind. Maybe we can find some way, but I do think it's something, again, just to emphasize to the full Forest Health Council, that workforce and having that pathway. And also reach out to the Warren College. But we're out of time. And thank you, Christina. Have a great weekend. Is there any other big ticket items on the list that you want us to discuss next week at the Full Forest Health Council. And I didn't expect for us to keep going through all of this and have this great conversation, but I do think there was a couple things that were in the career, in the impacts for utilities. And I'm wondering if we could just highlight maybe that utilities need to be included in public lands management planning maybe a little bit, and the fixes to terms or right-of-ways, licensing and permit to facilitate them trying to, if there's a tree that's just over the line but very impactful, how do we help them have an easier pathway to deal with that? So that's the only one else I wanted to make sure, because I think that is all a big one. And I'm not so sure we want to touch the reduction in liabilities. I think that's an important piece, but I'm thinking of the political charge that could come with that. And I'm just not sure we want to, I think that's a great idea, but I'm not so sure that might be the thing to add to our list for recommendations, but maybe something that we can talk about down the road. And then one more. So unless someone has something against it, I think we should at least add that, because I think that was an important thing from our utility partners. But Mr. Morgan, real quick, because we're out of time.
Real quick, I would like to add my name to that one. I see it on there. That's all.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Allison. All right, Courtney, thanks for you all. I want to honor everyone's time. So those are the things we're going to talk about, and I hope that all works for all of you. And I guess we'll see you at the Full Forest Health Council, and we'll see you in 2 weeks after this. So thank you all for your time and your engagement. This has been a great meeting. Have a good day.